So half the battle to doing well in a geometry class is getting comfortable with definitions, diagrams, and symbols. So we're going to start with points, rays, line segments, and lines. You may have come across these terms before, but the key thing here is you want to understand the difference between how these terms are used in everyday language versus how they're specifically used in math. So we'll start with a point. A point is just a position in space. And it technically has no size, but we do need a way to represent it. So what we use is a filled in circle with a capital letter label. So what I'm going to use here is a 1x1 circular flat brick with a label. In this case, this would represent a point called A. Do another example here. This is a point Q, and this is a point called Z. So to show this in writing and in diagrams, for diagram we would just put a filled in circle and you would put that capital letter. It always should be a capital letter by convention. So most often I'd say the letter is probably above or below the point, but it could be to the side as well. It just kind of depends on the text and how things best work when you're drawing something out. But we'll go ahead and do that. Second example, Q, and then Z. All right, to represent this in text, you would just put that capital letter. So we'll stick with A. So you might just see the A on its own, or you would see point A. Just kind of depends on the context of what you're reading. All right, next we'll get rays. So a ray is kind of like a line that starts at one point and then it goes to infinity in the opposite direction. So I'll show that out with bricks here first. So the brick down. We're going to have our starting point, and then to represent going to infinity in the opposite direction, we are going to use an arrowhead. So I'm going to make that by overlapping two bricks. And then we also always need 2 points to represent any of these three topics here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a second point on here. So the way I kind of remember this for ray is I kind of think of like a sun ray. So I kind of think of like this is the starting point, the sun, and then the rays kind of going off into space and infinity. Then it doesn't always have to go in this direction. It could go, right now we have it going from left to right, but it could go right to left, up to down, down, up, even diagonally. So we can go ahead and represent that in text and go ahead and use a brick as a straight edge. So we have a straight line, and then we go ahead and add in our starting point and then our arrowhead to indicate that it's going to infinity in the opposite direction. And then we'll go ahead and add a point in for our second letter label. So R here, S there. Now to write this out, we would do, the order of the letters here really matters. You always start with the starting point, so R, and then you use your point that's in the direction of the arrowhead, so S, and then you would put a line with an arrowhead above it. So RS, it could never be SR. I'll do one more example that goes kind of a different direction. So let's go ahead and call this MN. So the point doesn't always need to be at the very end as long as you're working with 2 points that are within this. So in this case, our starting point is M. Arrowhead goes in the direction of N, and then you draw your arrowhead and line above it, MN. So your text could say Ray MN, or it might just show this. All right, next we're going to look at line segments. So a line segment has a starting point and an ending point. And like a ray, this doesn't have to be horizontal. It could be vertical. It could be diagonal. It's just kind of nice to see everything kind of above each other and below. All right, so line segment. So you always have a starting point and an ending point. In this case, so this is EF. So I'll put the E here, F here. And to represent this, we would do EF with a line above. For line segments, the order of the letters doesn't matter, so we could do the opposite as well. So this could be F, E also. They both represent the same line segment. So yeah, in text you might have it labeled line segment EF, or you would just see this symbol here. All right, lastly, let's go ahead and look at lines. So a line goes to infinity on both sides. So I think that a line is probably the term here that is most different to how it's used in everyday language. And yet, honestly, even in geometry, we might just say a line when we mean to draw something straight. You say draw a straight line. But when we specifically say a line in a problem, it is something that goes to infinity on both sides. And other thing to keep in mind, ray, line, segment, line, all these are always straight. There's no curves in these. But let me go ahead and get the two arrowheads on here. And then we still also need 2 points to be able to represent a line in text. So I'll go ahead and grab 2 points here. I'll go with C and D. So typically letters are kind of go alphabetically within diagrams. Sometimes there might be variation, just go by the situation, but convention is typically you have letters in alphabetical order. All right, so for a line, we're going to have arrowheads on both sides, and then we have 2 interior points, C, D, and then to write this out, we do C, D, 2 arrowheads, 1 on each side. Like with the line segment, the order of the letters doesn't matter, so this could also be D, C. Lines also have one other way they can be represented, and that is by a lowercase letter that just represents the line as a whole. Oftentimes this is a cursive letter, but sometimes it could just be a regular lowercase letter. So, cursive L is, something that's commonly used, or just might be like a lowercase M or something along those lines. I'll do another example here. We'll do an up and down. So it might just be like something along those lines. So in text, it could be called like line L, or it'll have the CD, something like that, or M here, and then if we wanted to put the points on this, we could do like WX. So this would be WX or XW. All right, in the next video, we'll go over situations where you have more than 2 points on one of these, like array, a line, segment, a line, and what that means, how you deal with them, how it might change or not change, how you represent it in your symbols.